Welcome to Gran Turismo Sport content 2 days in a row. It's a miracle, ain't it? I guess somewhat more for me than others. Because I think the general consensus is this week's weekly races are quite terrible. My individual consensus is, at least on the qualifying side of it, they're pretty good. And believe it or not, I've even actually done one race with my main account at BB Raceway, and I won that race. It was a fairly boring and mostly single file race where I started about 1 second ahead and ended about 1 second ahead because other cars could keep up in the draft. But with there only being one braking zone, there's really nowhere to pass, and just Didn't actually lower sportsmanship rating, but that's because I was in the lead. The main point of this video is to say, though, despite actually going pretty well at the short track, all in all, it seems like I'm quite a bit less consistent with GT Sport nowadays than a days, I guess, meaning before in general. And, well, this video is I'm gonna attempt to figure out why or how or whatever. The main issue, I guess, in general, is that I'm not playing as much. But then it's counteracted by the fact of BB Raceway. Well, everybody's not been playing it as much because it hasn't been in the weekly races in a long time, so everybody's kind of in an even field there. But yet there, I was still able to get a lap that once I finished was top 3 in the leaderboards, and at this point, early day on Tuesday, it's still top 5 in the leaderboards in the Americas region, and that's good. But that is a short track. Those laps are 32 seconds-ish, slightly more. So, yeah, I can be consistent for one lap there. That's perfectly fine. I think a lot of people can. Problem, though, is, well, the track that's here, the one that I even have a world record on, the Circuit Experience one, and then the other ones at that site that I've done videos too, which may or may not continue, we'll see on that, but yeah, this one, well, my best is, well, what's on the screen there, slightly improved than that over the entirety of this video. And spoiler alert, my best overall right now is a 117.502. Put that into context, 10th in the Americas region is a 116.8 something. 116.8 to 117.5 is a fairly big gap. Especially given my previous records on this track. I'll be honest, I've not been playing as much, so yeah, that no matter how I'm doing at one track, that probably by default affects stuff, but the real reason for me that I'm not doing so good nowadays is, well, NBA 2K19, which I'm not playing at all now. I've already done videos on that. Ended up with a broken controller. Other videos not related to GT Sport, y'all may or may not want to watch them. But nonetheless, all that means now I'm using a backup controller. The first controller that I had with PS4. I got PS4 in 2014, and the controller still works, kind of. Not really complaining. I've had the controller for about 5 years and it still works. But the R2 button only senses pressure up to about like 90%. Like I can push it down all the way, but it only senses about 90% of the pressure. So therefore, general game, the R2 button, all or nothing, is fine. But with GT Sport, that doesn't really work. So I've had to map the acceleration to this stick. So the up is accelerate, down is brake. I'm not nearly as good with that. I know some people prefer that, but all in all, I would say I've driven roughly 1,000 miles using that setup with GT Sport now, and I can say this. I don't think I'm much downright slower, except here. using the setup, but I'm way less consistent. It's doable. It's not the end-all be-all worst thing in the world. But I guess the best way to word it is it's kind of the equivalent of manual transmission versus dual clutch automatic transmission. Nowadays, technology's got it to the way of no matter how much people like using manual transmissions, those dual clutch transmissions are by default faster because you just put it into the next gear before you go to the next gear, and then the car just automatically shifts to the next gear literally instantly because it's already set to be in the next gear when the next gear comes. With throttle response with a controller, the equivalent of that of using R2 versus using up and down on the right stick, you can immediately already have your finger on L2 for needing to brake. But then with up and down on the stick, let's say you're immediately accelerating, then immediately going to brake. That means there's the motion of turning the stick going from up to down, meaning it's not automatic. So there's that amount of time in there as well. And at least for me, it's a bit harder to be fully precise with throttle inputs and stuff. I've said in the past I'm not the dangest with trail braking as is with the setup I'm used to. So with this, I'm that much worse. But then it's even all the way to this now. Now I can't even run the track I'm best at to the point in which I'm even top 10 in a region. Instead of before I've shown that I can be first in the world. It's not just a consistency problem, that's a downright speed problem. That, honestly, this may sound more of a cop-out, but I'm contributing to the most recent physics update, which there was. And I think 1.32, there was a slight physics update. And again, it's slight, there's not that big of an issue. And really the only track I've seen too much of a difference on is this track, Toyota Expressway Central Loop, aka the one that I'm best at. This is the only track I've seen a noticeable difference on. Granted, this is probably the track that I've ran the most miles on as well. But, yeah, I can see a bit of a difference with the physics engine. I'm not as good with this physics engine, I'll be quite honest. So, I hate to say it, but don't really expect me to be incredibly super fast around this track anymore. Granted, the last weekly race around this track was right at the beginning of the new physics update. It was, I think, Audi TTs around here. There was something four-wheel drive in 300, I think it was Audi TT. And I eventually ended up getting top 5 or 6 or something like that in the America's Racing by the end. But, remember I said I've done about 1,000 miles on since I've changed to using up and down stick versus L2R2. The change in which I'm using the sticks came roughly about the time in which the physics update came. And I would say just in that one time trial, I didn't even really do races with that. I think I did like 2 races maybe. I did about 500 miles. 500 miles got me to top 5 in the America's region, but so unwell this replay, I put about an hour and a half in-ish. It's roughly like looking at replays and then doing miscellaneous settings and stuff. Equals about 75 miles of driving. It's not the best average for an hour and a half, but whatever. I like to look at the replays and stuff to learn lines and all that too. And 75 miles, which is still, I think, fair to say more than the average casual player would put in total. In one setting, I'm still well off the top 10 pace. All things considered, my optimal time, it says it's a 17.0, but I'm not even so sure about that. I think some of that I was just able to carry more momentum in some sectors because I messed up in a different sector, so therefore different speed going into a particular sector, blah blah blah. I think my absolute best right now is like a 17.1 and like a high one at that. Yeah, that's a bit off. And I'll admit, some of it's a car as well. I don't like the BMW Z8, but I'm not terrible at driving it. I actually don't mind the Alfa Romero 4C, because it's a pretty straightforward car to drive. There's not actually too much braking and all that in it. But because it does handle so good, it's sort of anti my mantra of slower cars and generally faster on average can I compare to others in the same car. This car, while it doesn't have much of a top speed, is still, in my driving style, quote unquote fast car because it handles so good. So therefore I'm more inconsistent with it, just because it does take faster steering inputs and stuff because it just physically can. I'm sure that does have somewhat to do with me being downright slower and not even less consistent at this track, but also from what I can remember with the Audi TT, which has been another, had been ran before in sport mode too, and have been able to get top 5 America's Region. I think even won the America's Region one other time with that exact track car combination. After this particular time around with it, I think about 9th in the America's Region after 75 miles. Yes, that is better than this car, but I'm just better in that car. So, yeah, I'm a lot more inconsistent than I was previously. A particular timetable I'm not 100% sure on, but I'd say 2 or 3 months-ish of being less consistent. So, as much as I'm one to like brag and stuff about being good, and I'm going to try my best to actually help too in terms of bragging. Like, I'll just brag about the time, and then I'll try my best to show y'all exactly how I also did that time. I'll attempt to have my bark to have a bit of bite with it too, but there would definitely be some bark there. The bite ain't what it used to be. So enjoy the 2 days in a row GT Sport content, because I'm not so sure how long that's gonna last again. I'm sure when the update comes out next week there'll be more content with it, that's pretty much guaranteed, but if y'all came here for me actually being quote unquote fast driver, I'll admit I ain't exactly what I used to be with that. Maybe it'll change. Eventually I might just get a new controller, I'll see, but the one that I have ain't necessarily broken. And I don't also necessarily have the money that I want to spend on a new controller, so I'll see, but for now though, this is this, and this is throughout the entirety of this video, I'm still only at a 5:44. And this entire video so far has been 13 minutes, and the clip in general 32 minutes of driving to get to that point. And in total, again, I said about an hour and a half. There's different clips I like saved and stuff at different points as my best time improves, so I could like look back at it and stuff. But anyway, there's that, folks. Yeah, I'm less consistent now, but I'll still keep practicing to the best of my abilities, as I feel like what's given at hand, my abilities are less than they used to be. And I mean, y'all can see that to an extent of what's been on screen this entire time too, but whatever. I'll continue on. Hope for the best, and maybe it'll get better. I'm not necessarily bashing the new physics update, because this is the only track that I've seen a real difference on, like, well noticeable difference, but of course, the one track that I see a noticeable difference on is the one that I'm best at. Maybe practice would just eventually change that, but as of now, about 1,000 miles of practice later, I haven't seen much change. I don't know, maybe in another 1,000 miles or so, that'll be worth a y'all, because I'll improve. Or maybe I won't. Only time will tell on that one, folks. Only time will tell.